Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kamrai Sola from HRSA. Thank you for joining today's webinar. The purpose of the webinar today is to go through the HRSA Data Collection Platform, which will be your new platform to submit your PIMS measures that are due on March 31st. Just want to take a moment to thank you so much for the effort that you take to actually submit this data. This data is super important for our RCORP programs. And so we definitely appreciate all of the work that you go through to ensure that the data that you submit is accurate. With that, I will turn it over to Sawyer for a few more announcements.
Perfect. Thank you, Kamu. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar for the new HRSA Data Collection Platform for RCorp implementation. As Kamu said, my name is Sawyer Liebold, and I'll be your facilitator today. Joining me is Jerry Higgins, who is our systems expert, and he'll be helping me out with the demonstrations for the day. So what we're going to do is our agenda. You can go there, Jerry, all good. So our agenda for today, first we'll go over a quick overview of the changes and who's affected. Then we'll look at how to access the new HRSA Data Collection Platform and how to navigate the homepage. Next, and probably the most important, is how to complete and submit your performance reports. Then how to view the approval history and your approved reports. And next, we'll how to respond to change requests from HRSA. And finally, how to access your grantee raw data report. And just a quick administrative item, if you do have any questions at any point, please go ahead and put them in the chat pod and they will get answered throughout or at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with an overview of the transition. So before we get into the system details, let's look at a little background on this transition. As of September 1st, any performance reports created for RCorp implementation grantees will be created and submitted in the new HRSA Data Collection Platform. This new system has an updated look and feel and is easier to navigate to give you a better experience while completing and submitting your performance reports. And then as a quick reminder, this only applies to performance reports created on or after September 1st. The RCorp implementation reporting period is going to be September 1st, 2023 through February 28th, 2024. Right now, only 3 programs are included in this transition, but other programs will be transitioned in the future, and additional features will be added to continue to improve the way that you use the system. All right, now let's go ahead and look at how to access the system and navigate through the homepage. Starting on September 1st, use the link to the new HRSA Data Collection Platform. While this is not part of the HRSA EHBs, the systems are connected, so you still use your EHB's login.gov email and password to complete the 2-factor authentication to access the system. If you do not have a login.gov account for the EHBs yet, please go ahead and create that. There are some HRSA wiki help pages to walk you through that process, linked through the slides, and we'll also cover it towards the end as well. So on the homepage, you find your username on the top right side of the page. Once you click on your username, you will see a logout option. Select RSID performance reports to access your reports from the top toolbar or the widget at the bottom. You can select data extracts to access your grantee raw data report from the top toolbar as well, or the widget at the bottom. And the middle section of the page contains background on the purpose of the performance report. All right, so now that we've looked at how to access and navigate through the homepage system, let's look at how to complete and submit your performance reports. After selecting RSID performance report from the navigation bar or widget from the homepage, you will see the performance reports assigned to you. The list displays the tracking ID, submission name, grant number, reporting period, program name, and the status of the report. Click on the tracking ID on the left side of the page to open the performance report, and view the status on the right side of the row to see what the status of your report is in. On the performance reports page, you can select different list views to find reports in different statuses. The page defaults to recently viewed, but you can click the arrow next to recently viewed to select a different list view. And you can also set a different view as your default using the pin beside the drop-down arrow. You can use the box on the far right to search for specific performance reports by tracking ID or its status. The approved reports list view displays the reports the HRSA project officer has approved and are in approved statuses. The change requested reports list view displays reports the HRSA PO has returned for updates, and they are in change requested status and must be updated and resubmitted. The in progress reports list view displays reports that have not been started or are in progress and have not yet been submitted yet. These are in the not started or in progress status. Recently viewed list view displays reports that you assessed recently. And finally, the submitted list view displays reports that have been submitted to HRSA for review, but have not yet been approved or had change requested yet. After opening a performance report, you can view the tracking ID, details about the grant, the performance report, including submitted date and review status. In the grantee data entry section, you can see the performance report form status for each form, which is not started, in progress, or complete. And just note that this is different than the status in the performance report as a whole. Select the view option to open a read-only view of the report, or select start if the form has not yet been started, or edit if the form is in progress status to work on said report. At the top of the page, when the report is ready, you'll be able to click submit for review. And then once submitted, you can track the approval history at the bottom of the page. You also have an option to generate a PDF when the report is in prog or completed. And this is very important. Before you can submit your report for approval, you must complete all the forms, which will have a green check mark beside them when completed. After clicking start or edit to work on your report, the first page is the public burden statement. You're going to need to review the statement and click next to continue to the data entry fields. Throughout the form, you can track your progress from the right side of the page with the steps. They will turn green as you complete each step. As you work through the form, be sure to complete all the required fields, which will be indicated with an asterisk. You can compare data to the previous reporting period if applicable. And if an incorrect data type is entered, a required field is left blank, or dependent fields do not match, you'll receive an error message which will tell you to correct that data. If you enter data in the value field, the corresponding specific fields will also be required. At the bottom of the form, add any comments needed for the HRSA PO or attach any files. These are both optional fields, and take note that the comments and attachments show on each of the forms. After completing the data on the step, click Next at the bottom right of the page to save your data and go to the next step. Please take note that the Next button is how you save your data on that page. If you click Previous or back to main screen before clicking Next, your data will not be saved. So that is something very important to note. Once all required data is entered on the form status updates to complete. Complete all the forms, and then you're ready to submit the report to HRSA for review. Click the Submit for Review button at the top right of your page to submit the report. After you click Submit for Review, enter optional comments if you'd like in the Submit for Review pop-up, and then click Submit. Then your report updates to submitted status, and moves to the submitted reports list view. Okay, now that you know how to submit, let's take a look at how to check on the approval status of your report. After submitting your report, you can track the progress through the approval history section. As the HRSA PO makes decisions, you can see if it was approved or changes were requested on your report. You can also see all comments added when the report was submitted, approved, or change requested. On the right side of the screen, click the arrow to view the full comments. Once approved by HRSA, the performance report status updates to approved and is listed in the approved reports list view. Now you might be asking yourself, what happens if HRSA requests updates to the report while we're viewing? So let's go ahead and take a look at that now. If HRSA sends back the report for updates, you will receive an email notification with the comments the PO added about the requested change. The performance report status moves to change requested, and you can find the report on the change requested reports list page. Click on the tracking ID on the left side of your screen to open the report and make the necessary changes. When you open the performance report, in the approval history section, you can see the comments the HRSA PO added about the requested changes. On the right side of the page, you can click the arrow to view all the comments if they are longer. Then open your performance report, make changes, and be sure to resubmit. The edit button will be available for changes as requested. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jerry to walk you through the system with a live demo of what we just covered.
Thank you, Sawyer, and thank you everyone for joining us. Just 1 minute to move my screen over. So as a grantee, when you log into the system, this will be the first screen that you see. You're being welcomed to the HRSA Data Collection Platform, and you're on the Data Collection Platform homepage. As Sawyer mentioned, in the upper right corner, you'll see your name. And if you click on your name, you'll see an option to go to home or to log out. So when you're ready to log out, you can just click on that. And then in the middle of the screen, you see information about the data collection platform itself. And then at the top of the screen, you have tabs. So you have a home tab, a tab for your performance reports, the RSID performance reports. You have a tab for data extracts and a tab to see help and resources. Each one of these tabs has a corresponding widget at the bottom for the performance reports, the data extracts, and help. Your performance reports is where you're going to see your reports and be able to edit them and work on them. The data extracts tab is where you'll be able to see the reports that show all of your data. We call it the grantee raw data report, and we'll visit that in a little bit during this presentation. And then the help tab is where you can see resources to help you if you need assistance. We're also going to visit that a little bit later. Right now, I'm going to click on the RSID Performance Reports tab. And that's going to open up the Performance Reports tab window. And when that opens up, it defaults to show you your recently viewed reports. That's the list view that is currently pinned. You see the little blue pin there. If you click on the words recently viewed or the arrow next to it, then you'll see your other list view options. You'll see your list view choices are approved reports, change requested reports, in progress reports, recently viewed, and submitted. You can change the default list view. Like let's say you want to see your reports that are in progress. So you can click on the in progress list view and then click the pin here. And I get a notice that the in progress reports was pinned. And so now whenever I go to the home page or any other page and come back to the RSID performance reports, it defaults to show me my in progress reports. I can do that with any of the list views that are here, and I can change the pin as often as I like. You'll be able to change the pin as often as you like. I am going to go to the in progress reports list view so that we can look at what's currently in progress. As Sawyer mentioned, when you're looking at any of the list views, you see the following columns. You see the tracking ID number. This is an ID number that's generated by the data collection platform system, and it's how we track your individual reports as you're filling them out. You'll see that there's a column for submission status, so you can see what's past due and what's on track. There's a column for submission name, for your grant number, the program name, the reporting period, and the status. In the in progress list view, you're going to see reports that have a status of in progress and reports that have a status of not started. Both of those fall under the heading of in progress. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of the reports. I'm going to start with the one that is not started so that you can see what it looks like when a report is brand new, as you'll be seeing when you begin to document your work. So I click on the tracking ID, and that opens up this report. And in this report, we can see that the first thing we see is our expandable header. This header, when it's collapsed, shows you the grant number, it shows you your grantee organization name, and it shows the reporting period. If we expand the header, in addition to the grant number, the grantee name, and the current reporting period, you also see the report due date, the report review status, and the submitted date. The submitted date will be blank until the first time you submit your report for review. And then below our expanded header, we have the grantee data entry section. And in the grantee data entry section, you can see all of your forms for this report. And below the forms, you can see where you have the option to generate a PDF. And we're going to talk about generating those PDFs a little bit later. Right now, I want to get into actually documenting your work. So you can see that there's a symbol next to each one of these forms. Currently, it's a red circle. That means that these forms are not started. The other options that you may see here from the legend is in progress. If there's an orange clock next to one of the forms, that means that that form is in progress. If there's a green circle with a check mark, that means that that form is complete. You will not be able to submit your report for review until all of the forms are complete. So let's go ahead and look in at what you see when you click on when you open one of the forms. There's two ways you can open the forms. You can click on the view option, which will let you see the forms in read-only mode. So you'll see all the same information, but you won't be able to edit anything. And then you have a start option. When the forms are not started, you'll see a start option. If a form is in progress or complete, you'll see that you have an edit option. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the start option for form number 1. And now our form opens up, and the first thing we see in form 1, and this is going to be whenever you open form 1, the first thing you'll see is the public burden statement. So you see the words public burden statement there. Then we have a button to go back to the main screen. If I click on this button, it'll just take me back to the main screen here. I'm gonna go ahead and click on start again in form 1 so we can get back to where we were. And then we see the public burden statement. And in that public burden statement, you're gonna see the OMB control number and the date through which that OMB control number is valid. To the right of the public burden statement, you're going to see the steps. These are the steps that you'll need to complete this particular form, form 1. These are the steps you'll go through. The current step that you're on will have a blue circle. Any steps that you've completed will have a green circle with a check mark. And to navigate to the steps, you'll click the next button. So I'm going to go ahead and click the next button. And when we click the next button, That brings us to step 2, and we can see the name of the step over here, the medical organizations and agencies step. And at the top of the step, we can see the form name and title. And then we have our expandable header again, where we can see all the information. And then we have our back to main screen button again. So if we wanted to go back to the main screen, we could click that button. And then we start getting into the subsections for this particular step. This first subsection is the medical organizations and agencies. And then in this subsection, there's an advisory notice for medical organizations and agencies. Please input data for at least one measure. So they want you to answer at least one of these measures. And then for several of your subsections, you will see that there's additional information, instruction or advisory information for you to let you know as the grantee what's expected from you in that particular subsection. So in this subsection, Sawyer mentioned when a field's required, it'll have a red asterisk next to it. None of these measures have a red asterisk next to them. So these are not required, but we have our advisory notice here to please input at least one measure. So I'm going to put input data for at least one measure. And according to our instruction, we're going to identify the types and number of medical organizations. So I should be putting in numbers here. So I'm going to put in a number. We'll say 56. And when I put in 56, then our advisory notice goes away because I've addressed at least one measure. I've filled in information for at least one measure. As you're going through and putting in your information, you're going to notice that these measures are validated in real time. So one of the validations we have for this section is all the information you put in, it allows whole numbers up to 10 digits. So you can't put in a number with a decimal place. You can only put in whole numbers up to 10 digits. And if you exceed the 10 digits, then again, you'll get that validation message that it allows whole numbers only up to 10 digits. And so as we're going through, we can answer any of these questions. Only one was required. So I'm going to go ahead and come down to the other medical agencies and organizations. So we have all these different types of medical agencies and organizations. But if you have a medical agency or organization that is not in this list that you want to give information about, then you can come to the other agency and organization value and put in the number of those types of organizations. And then you can come to the other agencies and organizations type specify and specify the type of information, type of organization that it is. Let's say it's an immunization clinic. And these other specify fields, you can see there's a note there. They allow up to 2,000 characters. So you can be as descriptive as you like with these. And if you put in 2,000 characters, then you can expand these fields so you can see all of the characters. So I put in my value and I put in my description in the specified field. So now I can go on to the next one. And as Sawyer mentioned, these values and specified fields are tied together. So if you put in a value, but you don't put anything in the specified field, the system will give you an error message. And I'm going to leave this one blank so I can show you what that error looks like. And I'm going to come down to the comment section. The comment section are form level comments. So what that means is if you put a comment in on any step of the form, you'll see that comment on every step of the form. So I'm going to put a comment in here, step 2. Step 2 form comment. And then we have a files and attachments section. In the files and attachments section, you can upload files as supporting documentation for any of the information that you put in, or anything that you want to share with your PO and HRSA to document the work that you've done. You just click on the Upload Files button, and then you'll go to where you have your file stored and select the file that you want, and it will upload for you. And when it's uploaded, the upload's complete, you'll see a green circle with a check mark, and then click the Done button. And your attachment is there in the file list. And like the comments, the attachments are form level. So when you make an attachment on any step of the form, you'll be able to see them in every step of the form. You won't see the comments or the attachments on any of the other forms. Like if you put a comment on Form 1 or an attachment in Form 1, you won't see it in Form 5. They're specific to each particular form. And then we come down to the Next button. And when you click the Next button, this is how you save your information. The information that you put in on the screen is not saved until you click the Next button. And part of that saving process is a validation that goes through. So the system goes through and makes sure all the information that you put in is accurate, and it will point out any information that is lacking or doesn't match the information that we're looking for. And you'll be brought back to that section where you'll be asked to put in that information. So I'm going to put in something. We've left our other specified type 2. We've left that blank, and that is required if we have something in the value section. So I'm going to put in a description here. And when I add a description, the error message goes away, and I can come back down to our Next button. And before I click the Next button, I'm just going to point out that above the Next button, you see this on every step. The OMB control number is there, and the expiration date for the OMB control number is there. And you'll see that on every step just above the Next button. And as I mentioned before, you have to click Next in order to save. If I click Previous right now, my information that I've put in will not be saved. I could click the Next button and go back to it, and the system may hold that information. You may see it on the screen still when you go back to it, but it has not been saved until I click the Next button. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And when I click Next, my information is saved, and I've been taken to the next step in the form. And you'll notice we're at the bottom down by the Next button. This is a known issue with Salesforce. When you click Next, it takes you to the next page and it brings you to the bottom. Our team is working with Salesforce to correct this so that when you click Next, you're brought to the top of the screen. And so when I scroll up here to the top of the screen, you can see that now we're in step number 3, social service and non-medical agencies and organizations. Our previous steps have green check marks, and I can even go back to a previous step by clicking on that green check mark. I can make any corrections that I need to make here, and then I can click the Next button again and come back to step number 3. And in step number 3, again, we have our form number and name. We have our expandable header, our back to main screen button, and then we see our next subsection. And once again, in this subsection, we have an advisory notice to please input data for at least one measure. And then below that advisory notice, we have instructions for this subsection to put in the number of social service and medical organizations and agencies in your consortium. So I'm going to come to community-based organizations. I'm going to say that there are 15. And when I put in information for at least one measure, that satisfies that advisory notice. And so that advisory notice goes away. And I'm going to scroll down. You only have to put in for at least one measure. So you don't have to put in for any other measures. So I'm going to scroll down through the other measures, and I'm going to come down to the comment section. And now we can see that the comment we put in on step 2 of the form is here and visible for us on step 3 of the form. And here in the file attachment section, we can see that the file we attached in step 2 of the form is visible for us here in step 3 of the form. And I'm going to click Next to save the information that I put in on this step. And once again, it brings us to the bottom. We're going to scroll up to the top. And now we are in step 4 of this form, the service area section. We have our form number and name, our expandable header, our back to main screen button, and then we have the service area subsection. There's no instruction for this subsection, but we've come to our first required field. There's a red asterisk next to this field, and it says, please select the option that best describes your project service area. And whereas before we were typing in numbers into a number field, here we have a drop-down list. So you're going to choose from the drop-down list which best describes your project service area. I'm going to say multiple counties. And I should point out, I should have pointed this out in the previous, you'll notice that you have 2 columns. You have one column where you have your answer and you're putting in your answers. That is the current reporting period column, and that shows your current reporting period start and end date. And then you have another column, that's your previous reporting period. So this is where you can see for comparison the information that you reported in your previous reporting period. This column is read only. So you can see the information that's there, but you cannot edit the information that's there. And so I just want to point that out. And we saw that on the previous steps. I just didn't bring that up, and I want to bring it up now. So we've addressed our required question here, our required measure. And next we come to the next subsection, which is states and territories. And here in states and territories, we have information on how to answer and provide information in this subsection. We also have another advisory notice to at least one state or territory is required. So you come down to your current year section in the states and territories, and you're going to select the states and territories that you want to say that you're working in. I'm going to select my hometown state, which is my first and favorite state, my first love. And then I'm going to scroll down to one of my other favorite states, which has beautiful mountains, the state of Utah. So I'm checking those as my 2 states where we have done work. And then I'm going to click the save button. Once I've set my states, I can click the save button, or I can click cancel. If I'm not ready to save the state yet, or if I've put states in error, I can click cancel and start again. But I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and click the save button. And so I get a message. The changes have been saved successfully, and my states have been documented successfully. Now, maybe I decide after I do this, a couple days later, I want to add a couple other states or territories. So I can come back and add other states like Hawaii, and I can add states and territories or the Commonwealth of the District of Columbia. And then if I make any additions like that and Colorado, because I love those mountains, go ahead and click the save button again. And so now I get another success message that my changes were saved successfully. And so now I have documented the states and territories that are included in the project service area. And then we come to the comment section where you can put in more comments. And I should have mentioned before that this comment section allows you to put in up to 5,000 characters. We see the comment that we put in on step 2 is visible on this step as well. And then, hold on everyone, I'm sorry, 1 second. All right, and so I'm back, and now we see the files and attachments section where you can see the files and attachments that were that we put in step 2 are visible here in this current step as well. And then we can click the next button. And we're brought to the next step, the populations and consortium meetings section. And again, we have a required field. Here it's looking for the total population in the project service area. I'm going to put in 400. And then it's asking for the total number of consortium meetings in the past 6 months in this next subsection, and each one has its own description. And I'm gonna put in 25. And then we come to our comments section, our file attachments, and click the next button. And so now in this next step, we see our next subsection, and this one has a little lengthier set of instructions for this subsection. But we can go ahead and start answering our questions. We notice that all of the measures in this section are required fields except for the other value and the other specify. So that means we're going to have to answer all of these questions with information. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 100. And you have to put in something, even if it's a 0. And your sum of here, down here below all the entries we put in, we see the sum of all of these measures. And if we were to put in, if the sum of the measures does not equal our total number, we'll get a validation when we click on the next button. Get a validation notice when we click on the next button. And I'm going to go ahead and put in here as well. So you'll notice before I add this 225, it's giving me a validation message because the sum of the measures isn't equaling that total number of that 400 that we put in. But as soon as I add that last number and it equals 400, so I put in 400 here for the total number of unduplicated services offering at least one harm reduction service, and then all of these particular measures add up to that 400. And I'm going to come down to the comments and the file attachments and click next. And now we've come to the last step in this form. We can see here we're at sustainability, and in sustainability, it asks a question, which is optional. You're not required to answer the question, but if you answer the question yes, then the next subsection you're asked to get that advisory notice to select at least one option. And if you select at least one key consortium activity, then in the next subsection, you also get that advisory notice to select at least one option. So I'm going to select the HRSA grant funding option. And now we've fulfilled all the answers in this section, and I can click the next button. And when I click next, everything that I put in on this form is saved. And now this form goes from a status of not started to a status of complete. And as I mentioned before, all of our forms have to be complete before you can submit your report. And as a matter of fact, there's a notification right here. Now that you've actually started working in a form, this notification pops up for you at the top of the screen to please complete all forms in order to submit this report. And so rather than take you through and show you the steps of completing all these forms, I'm going to go back to my RSID performance reports tab, and I'm going to open up one of my other reports that is already in progress. And here we can see we have that same message. Please complete all forms all forms in order to submit this report. And when I open up the expanded header, I can see this one also has a review status of in progress, and the submitted date is blank because it has not been submitted yet. And then we see in the grantee data entry section, we can see the forms that are there and the various stages where they are. And because these forms are in progress, we don't see the start button anymore. We see the edit button for them. And below the forms, we have our generate PDF option. And then below that, we have our approval history. There's nothing in the approval history currently because we have not submitted this form yet. I do want to mention that the review status is the status for the entire report, whether it's in progress, it's been submitted, a change has been requested, or it's been approved. That's the review status. That is different from the individual statuses of these forms. Each form has its own form status, whether that's not started, in progress, or complete. But all of your forms have to be complete before you can submit the report and change the review status from in progress to submitted. So I'm going to go through and get all of these forms ready for submission. And once again, we see our public burden statement. And I'm going to click next to that. And if you're editing a form, you will need to go through every page of the form and click next on every page of the form in order to put that form in a status of complete. You can't skip any of the forms and just click back to main screen. That will not leave you with a completed status. So I'm going to go through and click next on each one of these steps. And now form 1 is complete. And I'm going to go into form 2, where we gather the demographics information. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and click next on each one of these forms, on each one of the steps in the form. And when I've completed all the steps in the form, then that form has the status of complete. Going to do the same thing for direct services, form 4. We have a required field. And click next. And click next. I'm just going to fill in this form, make sure everything is filled in properly. And click next. Go back to my demographics screen. That has to match what's in your demographics. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the number that's there. Oh, it's 400, it's 200. All right. and next, and next, next, and next. So you'll need to make sure that you're hitting all of your validations. And next, next. And here we need to select at least one measure. 6.3. Click next. And click next. And so now form 4 is complete, and we just need to do form 5. Click next, and next. And form 5 is complete. And now all of our forms are complete. And when all of our forms are complete, the notification in the upper left changes. It now says all forms have been completed and validated. You may proceed to submit this report. And you'll notice that now there's a submit for review button available where there wasn't one before. And if we open our collapse header, we see that the status is still in progress. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this for review. So I'm going to click the submit for review button. And when you click the submit for review button, the submit for review window will open. You can add comments, up to 4,000 comments here in your submit for review. They are not required, but you do have the option to add them. So I'm going to post a comment. And then once you put in your comment, you have the option to click cancel or submit. If you're not sure you want to submit at this point, you can click cancel and come back and submit it later, but I'm certain I want to submit. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit now. And I get a notice that popped up really quickly that my report was successfully submitted. And now when we look at the main screen, we don't see that message here anymore. We don't see the submit for review button anymore. You'll also notice there's no second column to edit any of these forms because they've been submitted. We only have the view option to see them in read-only mode. So you can see the full form in read-only mode going through each step. You won't be able to make any changes here. You'll just be able to view what's already there. I'm going to go back to our main screen. And now I want to get into this generate PDF button because perhaps at the time that you submit your report, you want to capture what was in that initial submission. And so you can come to the generate PDF button and click on that. And that's going to begin the process of generating the PDF. It should take less than a minute. You see it opens up a separate window and it's starting to generate the report. It's opening up the preview window. And as the preview window opens up, you'll notice there's a button here. It's labeled generating PDF. You won't be able to download the PDF until that's complete. When the generating PDF is done, that button becomes download PDF. And you can see a preview of your PDF here. But to get to the PDF, you want to click on the download PDF button. And that will give you the option to get to the download. On my browser, it lets me either open the folder where the download is stored. In my case, it's my downloads, or I can open the file directly. I'm going to go ahead and open the file here. And there is the PDF of our report. So at the top of the report, you can see the program name, and then the next thing you see is your organization name, and then your grant number, the reporting start date, and the reporting end date. Next, you have the report due date, and then the submitted date. Then you'll start seeing the information in the report in the order that you saw it on the user interface, starting with the public burden statement. And then you'll see the individual sections and subsections as you go through. And for each measure, you'll see the information that you added. At the bottom of each screen, you'll see the reporting period start and end dates. You'll see the date that this PDF was generated, and you'll see what page you're on. And so you'll be able to scroll through and see all of the pages. At the very top, depending on your browser, you should see options to zoom in or zoom out. You should be able to see a listing of the pages and what page you're currently on, like I'm on page 3 of 21. And depending on your browser, you may have an option to print the report or save the report. But as you scroll through, you're able to see the full report. And this report is opened in its own separate window. And so you will be able to manage that. And give me 1 second. I'm sorry. My window is completely open. And there we go. Couldn't get to this tab because of the Zoom meeting notification option. Sorry about that. So I'm going back to our report. The preview window is still open. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And a couple other things to note now that we've submitted. If we open our expandable header, we notice that the review status is now changed from in progress to submitted. And there's a submitted date, today's date, the date that you submit the report is the submitted date. And then if we come down to the approval history, we can see that there's information there now. The approval that was submitted, you can see the date, the status, the user, and the comments that were put in. And so that is how you would submit your report. And when you submit your report, a notification goes to your PO, and your PO will have the option to review your report, and they can choose to approve your report or do a change request on your report. And I'm going to indicate that the PO is doing a change request. And when they do a change request, they will add comments, and whatever comments they add, you will be able to see in two places. You're going to be able to see them in the email notification that you receive on the updated status of your report. And you're also going to be able to see them in the approval history. So while I was talking, I did an update from the position of the program officer. And so the next time that you log into the data collection platform and you click on your RSID performance reports, you're going to see that in your recently viewed list, you'll see the report that you submitted, and you'll notice that the status is now change requested, and you should have gotten an email notification letting you know that the status was change requested that included the comments from your PO. And if I open up this tracking ID, then I'll be able to see all the information that's there. And now if I come down to the approval history, I see that there's two entries there. And the top entry is the most recent entry. I can see that the status has been changed to change requested. I can see the user that made the change, and I can see the comments. And this comments, there's little ellipses there, which indicates that the comments are longer than what I can see. As Sawyer mentioned, you can click on this little arrow, and instead of choosing clip text, you can choose wrap text and see the full comment that's there. And you can go back to clip text to collapse the comment, but you have the option to see the full comment that's there. And then once you review that comment and make your changes to the specific field that you wanted to, or the specific, to address the specific concerns raised by your PO, I'm going to go ahead and make a change here, increase this to 54, and click next to save it. So I've made the change that was requested by the PO, and now I'm going to click submit for review again. And as I said before, your comments are optional. So this time I'm not going to put a comment in. I'm just going to click the submit button. And so when I click the submit button, I can see once again my review status is submitted. If I go back to my list view of my performance reports on my performance reports tab, in the list view, the recently viewed list, I can see that the status has now been changed to submitted, and my program officer, my PO, is going to be notified that this performance report is back for their review, and they're going to be able to go in and review it. And maybe this time you satisfied all of the requirements that they had, so they will approve the report. And when they approve the report, you'll receive an email notification that your report was approved. And the next time you log in, refresh this. The next time that you log into the system, you can click on your RSID Performance Reports tab. And now in the recently viewed, you can see your report has the status of approved. If we open up the report, we can see that if we expand the header, the status is approved. And if we come down to the approval history, we can see all of the approval history information, including when we resubmitted it, and then the most recent action by the PO to approve it. And we can see the date and timestamp and who the PO was who approved it. And that is how you will fill in your forms to report your information and then submit it, address any changes that are requested by your PO, and then submit it again and obtain that approval that I know that you want to have. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Sawyer so that he can take us through the next steps in our presentation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. So now that we've taken a look at how to submit your reports, get approval, change requested, we're going to take a look at your grantee raw data reports now.
Oh, one too many. Sorry, Sawyer.
Nope.
Got a little ahead of myself. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you there. No worries. So to access your grantee raw data report, select data extracts from the top navigation bar or the widget on the home page. The page will default to the recent view. But the first time you open the page, there will be nothing listed. Select all reports from the left menu to view all reports applicable to your role. Then select the grantee raw data report to open the report, or select run or export from the drop-down menu on the right side of your page. Click on the report name or run to open the report. Use the scroll bar on the bottom of the page to view all the data on the report. Select the grantee organization to view the organization details, or select the performance report tracking ID to open the report. And from the report page, select export to download the report. And you can select formatted report or details only, and then click export. And then for details only view, select the format and the encoding options, which Jerry will run you through, and then click export. And with that, I'm going to swing it back over to Jerry so he can run you through this process.
All right, thank you, Sawyer. Give me just one moment. Bring my screen back up. So we log back in and we're ready to see our data extracts, our grantee raw data report. So from here, we will, from the home page, click on the data extracts tab, and that's going to open up your reports window. And as Sawyer said, it opens to your recently viewed reports, your recent records. But if it's your first time coming in here, you won't have any recent records. You'll want to click on all reports, and that way you're going to be able to see all the reports that you have access to. And that will include the grantee raw data report, which I need to make an adjustment real quick to give this user that. I need to make a quick adjustment to the system. While I'm doing that, just a reminder to everyone to put your questions and comments in the chat, and we'll address them for you there. Just give me 1 second, please.
And thank you everyone for your patience. This is all test site, so we are working through this, and things are moving a tad slow as well. So we appreciate your patience.
All right. Just one more minute. Am I the only one humming the Jeopardy theme in my head? Is it just me? All right. And now click on the data extracts tab and click on all reports. And your RCorp implementation grantee raw data report will be listed there. And you can click on, you'll see that you have the report name, the description, the folder where it's listed, who created it, and the date it was created on. You can click on the report name itself to open up the report. And when the report opens, you'll see the name of the report. You'll see that there are grand total tallies here for some of your fields that are numerical fields. And then as we scroll down, you'll see that there's a scroll bar across the bottom so that you can scroll across. First columns you'll see are your program name, your data collection start date, data collection end date, your grant number, your organization, your grantee state, your grantee city, and then your performance report tracking ID. And then you'll begin to see the fields that of the report itself in order, in the same order that they appear in the user interface. So in the same order that you put your answers in, you'll see them as you scroll across to the right, all the way to the end of the very end of the report at the end of form 5. So you're seeing all of each column is a measure, and each row is the information that you entered. So if you only have one performance report, then you'll just see one row for that performance report. If you have multiple performance reports associated with your grant, then you'll see all of those performance reports listed in here. You will not see any performance report for any organization that is not your grant organization. No grant organization sees another grant organization's data. So you won't see any other organization's data, and no other organization will see your data. And this is where you'll see your information. And then as you, once you scrolled through and reviewed, you may want to export your information. And to do that, you'll click on the export button. And when you click on the export button, that's going to bring you to the export window where you have two export choices. You can choose to format in the formatted report export option or the details only export option. If you choose the formatted report export option, the report that you export is going to look a lot like what you see on the screen now. It's going to have all the same groupings. It's going to have all the same filter settings, and it's going to have all the same headers. And it'll be formatted like the report that you see now. If you choose the details only option, then it won't be grouped together. The fields won't be summarized or columns won't be summarized for you. It won't have those filter settings. It'll just have the raw data that's been entered in each row. In the formatted report, your only format option is the Excel format option, .xlsx. In the details only option, your format options are the Excel format .xls or the Excel format .xlsx or a comma delineated format .csv. Also, in the details only format, you're going to be able to choose encoding. So if the default encoding doesn't work for you, you can choose one of the other encoding options. And if you export the details only, this is going to be the behavior that you can expect to see. I'm going to go ahead and export that for you. Once again, I have my option where I can go to the folder where the export is housed, or I can just open the file itself. I'm going to go ahead and click on Open File. And when I open the file, as a default in Salesforce, when you export in the details only format, you're going to see this message come up. So I bring it up now so that you're familiar with it. It's basically saying that the file format and the name extension of the report doesn't match what's in the system. So it's not the RCorp implement grantee raw data report. It has this report number here. And so the system just wants to make sure that it's not a corrupted file and that it's safe and that it's from a source that you trust. It's coming from Salesforce, so you can trust it, and it is your form. So when you get this message, it's going to ask you, do you want to open it anyway? You're always going to want to say yes. And when you say yes, then your Excel spreadsheet is going to open up and you're going to see all of your data. Each column is all those columns I told you about in the beginning, and then you'll see each column is one of your measures as you scroll to the right. It's not formatted the way it was on the screen or anything. It's just the raw data that is in the system. And that's how you access your grantee raw data report. And that's how you export your grantee raw data report. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Sawyer.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jerry. So just a quick slide for a couple important reminders for you. Then after that, we'll have a few minutes extra for any of your questions. So a few reminders. The data does not autosave. Be sure to click Next on each page to save your work. The system does time out after 15 minutes of inactivity. And if you have any data that isn't saved, you will lose all of it. Required fields are indicated by an asterisk. After submitting the performance report, you cannot make edits unless the PO requests any changes. And after a HRSA PO request changes, you must resubmit the report for the PO to review once again. We also have a few helpful resources available for you. You can find step-by-step guides and facts from the Help tab on the system. If you have any questions or issues logging into the system, please contact the login.gov customer support team. Or if you have questions related to your performance report, contact the HRSA customer service team or your HRSA PO. You can also reach out to your PO for questions about your grant or the data needed for the performance report. And that's it. Thank you everyone for going on this journey with us. Please just give us one moment to collect and see if there are any questions that did not get answered in the chat. So it looks like we do have all of them. Yes, Kamu, I will go ahead and put the contact information in the slide or in the chat for everyone. Absolutely. But at this point, it looks like all questions are answered. Kamu, would you like to say anything for any closing thoughts?
Hey, sorry, this is Shubha. There are some questions where when
Thank
would
you.
we anticipate getting access to the system? There's one question there. So it would be March 1st, 2024. That's when you will get access to the new system. And there's one from Melinda. I'm confused as how to log into the new submission site. So all users, Melinda, should have a login.gov account that would enable you to log into this new system. I understand that the last reporting period you didn't have a login.gov, but Sudhanshu, would we be able to share those instructions as well to this group? Kamu, we do have the instructions in detail in the UAT scripts that was shared for grantee. So if you want to share that scripts with these grantees, please let us know. We can also attach it in the minutes that go out. So Melinda will work with Kamu to get you that instructions on how to create the login.gov accounts. That's all I see. Sorry. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shubha. Kamu, I will hand it over to you with any closing thoughts.
Just thank you so much for attending. If you have any further questions, please reach out to the customer support team, based on, the question that you have. And, you will also be receiving a recording of this webinar along with a user guide, and also instructions about the PIMS measures as well. And all of that information will be sent from either myself or from the PC of your respective program. Thank you.
Perfect. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for attending.